Good morning. Welcome to and welcome back to Truth and Transparency. Today's Thursday, December 1/8. Happy birthday to my son. Happy birthday, Jax. Today's episode titled Idaho4. Let's identify the neighborhood canvas to interviews. We're going to do that. We're also going to be talking about FOIAs. We're going to be talking about what's going to be happening over the next 4 weeks. So welcome. We have a lot of house cleaning to do here. All right. I've been asking, where is Judge Hippler? Where is Judge Hippler? Where is Judge Hippler? Right? Well, in Judge Hippler's defense, first thing, the third batch, okay, which is right here, this third batch that we've been waiting for. I will say the third batch was a lot more. It was like a double batch. Okay. So with that said, I'll give you double the time to get it to me. Okay. Double the time. So we should be all the way once we do get everything that we are looking and seeking. So what we're going to be doing is it's going to go all the way to January 9th, 2025. I'm sorry, back up. January 2nd, 2025. Thank you there, William. I should set a goal up. Let's set a goal because we are trying to make, I try to do and pay X amount of dollars and then ask for as minimal as I can to help cover the other parts of the FOIAs. So now, thank you there, William. William, you think I'm losing my voice, but I'm not. William. Hold on 1 second here. Okay. William. Thank you, William. William with the wrench. Let's get those thumbs up pumping. Pump it up. Pump it up. Okay. That's for FOIA. William, thank you. Okay. This came back to me December 10th. I had a couple come back to me, but I want to talk about how this is all working with these FOIAs. All right. Let me see here. We have waiting in the wings for us to obtain is, let me just print this. Okay. All right. So when I went ahead and put in, hey, you have to start redacting things accordingly to Judge Hippler's, I use it as an exhibit. I finally got a response back to saying, you're over redacting. Your Judge Hippler ordered X, Y, and Z. And I was using his orders to show that, he's not, when they put out the witness list, okay, the state and the defense said that they wanted names redacted. And Judge Hippler was like, no, they can have addresses, they can have date of birth, obviously stuff like that. But they're a witness in this case. That's how it was filed. There's no, people aren't threatening people. People aren't harassing people. We're really just trying to check on and see what type of investigation was done, who they went and talked to, who these reports belong to. Like, when I'm trying to ask for something, how can I ask for something and not say, hey, I want X, Y, and Z's interview? If I don't know their name, right, I have to say, report blank. I'm looking to get the recording, both audio, video, any notes, But here, off of the Idaho State Police, Moscow did a better job because they gave us initials at least. But the Idaho State Police reports, like the 600 pages, everything's redacted. I can't even give an initial. I can just say something like this. Let me read this. For example, in regard to tip 3195, I asked for Schwecky's. I said, where is it? Okay. By Detective Jake Schwecky. Due to the increased volume of public records requests, the substantial number of records you are requesting, and the city's legal obligation to review and determine if there are exemptions from release of the requested records, the city will need a longer period of time to locate, retrieve, review, and prepare the requested requests for public release. It may take the city more than 35 days to obtain this information, conduct our review, and provide it to you. In regard to tip 3195, the record you are requesting is an FBI record, and the city is not authorized to release FBI records pursuant to IC. So I want you to see this. Now, this is where it's going to get interesting. Jake Schwecky is not with the FBI. Jake Schwecky, okay, is with the Idaho State Police. So I want to explain that just a little bit more. So what I was asking for came from the Idaho State Police supplemental reports. Okay. All right. Here. All right. Okay, so I can explain how this would work. All right, for example, I took people that were on Ann Taylor's witness list, all right, who she specifically cited, went through all of the reports to get anything that each person had something to do with. Okay, and it created like a folder for each. So here, this is the Herman interviews. This is how they labeled it. Like, if there's going to be a folder and it's going to be titled Herman interviews within the Idaho State Police, when they would have given them a hard drive. Here you go. Here's the hard drive. The only reason I know this is because of the Moore case and how everything was handled with Idaho State Police. What they do is they hand you a hard drive and they say, here you go. Then you plug the hard drive in, you open it up, and what you're going to have is you're going to have different big folders that look like folders, right? And then when you click on each folder, let's say they say crime scene photos. When you click on that, There could then be different sub PDFs off of that. It could be a folder that says, in the Moore case, it was interviews, and it was like whatever interviews took place on March, 13th or March 17th or March 18th. Okay. Then they started getting into labeling each person that they interviewed with their name. Okay. But then you would get into the miscellaneous folders. Okay. And that's where you really want to look at, because that's where they like to bury. They'll say, hey, I gave you exculpatory. You just got to go find it, They'll start labeling things like, so here, Herman interviews. Okay. One would think is the way that this should actually be is whoever you actually are interviewing. So Idaho State Police normally would say, Molly McMichael's interviews. So it's Molly's. Okay. But here, this is the Herman interviews. That means this is Detective Herman with the Idaho State Police. And then here, they then went ahead and listed, this person that he interviewed on this date, Detective Cody Herman, okay? And Andy Huddle, recording A1. Now, why I was interested in Andy Huddle is because back in the day, first of all, Andy Huddle was with and had involvement with the Moore case. I already knew his name. Andy Huddle from the Idaho State Police, during and in real time, did a public records request to Washington State University and a Pullman Police Department in regards to that break-in that happened with the Jose, the Cruz kid. And so that was on, when I went back and did this, I was like, why is Andy Huddle from the Idaho State Police requesting it and Moscow Police Department back to back? Why are both agencies requesting this? Like, that should just tell you how not in sync and no one's talking. Okay. So back on the 16th, Moscow Police Department requested this. And then on the 17th of November, so the murders happened on the 13th, because we requested it. And when you request something, you then can see everybody before you that's ever requested it. So I'm able to see that on the 16th and on the 17th, and I did a big live about this. I said, look at this, Andy Huddle. So he's talking and looking at tips that are coming in. He's talking to Chris Engel, and that's on 11/17 of November. And then the day before that, Moscow Police Department. Okay. So I said to myself, do I believe that the police were like, hey, you got to put a FOIA in for that? I'm not going to give you the file until you put a FOIA in. No, because Chris Engel reached out with a quote unquote tip. Chris Engel is a Pullman Police Department detective. Chris Engel was the guy that wrote up his report in August of 2025. His report is absolutely bombshell. Like, what the fuck? The shit that he wrote in there. Anyways, it's like nobody wants anybody to know that the Pullman Police Department is in fact communicating daily with Moscow Police Department, with Idaho State Police. Okay. So anyways, going back to all of this shit, I wanted specifically, I'm over here seeking this in regards to tip 3195. The record you're requesting is an FBI record. And I'm over here like, how is this an FBI record? Wait till you see this. It's not an FBI record. And I can prove it, but now I have to go back through all of this bullshit. So, Okay. All right, ready? No. Haha, gotcha, Leslie Lehman. All right, I want you guys to take a look at this. On November 17th at 9:45, Idaho State Police Detective Leslie Lehman and Detective Cody Herman responded to blank, 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 located at blank, Pullman, Washington. Okay. November 17th, why are you trying to get cameras from a Pullman, Washington Sunset Mart or a Nom Nom? Or what are you doing on November 17th over in Pullman, Washington? November 17th. On November 17th, right there. This is very, very. So blank visited blank on November 13th, 2022 at 10:49 hours. Ooh, guess who that was? Ready? Ding, ding, ding. Jack John Showalter, right? Okay. So we've been looking through all of these 1112 cameras, right? And we said, okay, boom. That's Showalter's vehicle. That's that BMW. This is what time it leaves. This is what time it comes back. Okay. And I was like, damn, it takes 10 minutes to get there on a good day when no traffic and 10 minutes to get back, no traffic. 20 minutes, and that's you not getting out of your car. All right. So Leslie Lehman goes to Floyd's with Herm Dog here. Okay. And they talk to the guy because Jack Showalter's story, when he was interviewed on the 16th, he said, I woke up in the morning. Remember, I just told you guys that. And I went to Floyd's and I came back. All right. So here it is. We have now, I want to put a new time. He went to Pullman on Sunday, which is right there on the border of Pullman and Moscow, where Floyd's is located. And it's right here. I met with the store manager. Receipts, video footage, and store member history were provided. Okay, no warrant. Okay, boom, no warrant by this person regarding visits made to the store by Jack Showalter. Right there. Showalter visited Floyd's on November 13th, 2022. He got there at 10:49. You guys, ready? Are we ready for this? Got there at 10:49. And this is what it says. Showalter purchase was trackable through a receipt and a store membership program. The manager provided printouts of Showalter's receipt and his purchase history starting on September 14th, 2022. Using the timestamp on the receipt, the video footage was reviewed. Showalter can be seen parking in front of the store, exiting a black BMW. It's gonna get good. Okay, anybody that thinks that Showalter has a silver vehicle, you wrong as a motherfucker. Okay, or the video footage, he has a black BMW. You've seen it on 1111 too, right? So this is where I got the information off the rip that he had a black vehicle, not a silver or anything. It was right here, black. As getting a black BMW. So let me tell you how quickly this happens. He does his interview with his parent, or he does his interview on the 16th, 11/16. Tells him what he tells him. Immediately, what do? All right, let's go. We're going off to Floyd's the next day, Leslie. So clearly, I don't want to hear this. We're not communicating. Idaho State Police, Moscow Police Department. Who told you Leslie Lehman to go to Floyd's, right? You didn't interview Jack Showalter on the 16th. Okay. So we're clearly communicating what you'd want to establish if you were Ann Taylor, because they're going to try to establish that the right hand wasn't talking to the left hand. And that's how stuff fell through the cracks. You're going to establish that that's not true. They were. Okay. So saying that he visited and he is seen. So using the timestamp on the receipt, the video footage was reviewed. Showalter can be seen parking in front of the store, exiting a black BMW. Showalter was dressed in a University of Idaho gray sweatshirt, black pants, and wearing a brown beanie. I took still shots of the video. I took still shots from this is Leslie Lehman's claim to motherfucking fame here. This is all she ever does, and she fucks up left and right. I took still shots of the video and forwarded them via text to FBI agent Rob Hill. Ding, ding, ding. How in the world do you have Rob Hill's cell phone number? This is 11/17. Okay. Why all of this matters is because when you look at Rob Hill's going to be asked questions on the stand about if this was to ever go to trial, right? So clearly you're supposed to go see what vehicle he's driving. That's what the whole purpose was. Because you guys have DMV record. You know what I mean? What? Okay. And his apartment, I get it that you guys were just at his house. Listen, you guys were just at his house. This is what they normally do. When they go to your house to interview you, they have somebody that will take pictures of your vehicle. Okay. That is Idaho State's thing that they do, the police department. They did it in the Moore case. They were always just taking pictures of everybody's cars. Okay. So what this would mean is that on 11/17, she was told and directed to forward pictures of his vehicle to Rob Hill. She has his cell phone number on 11/17. Get pictures, send me those. Okay. What are you going to compare them to? On 11/17, you guys are over here acting, well, at least Detective Mowry is acting like that he's not even in and looking at 1112, just for the record. It's all lies. All right. So she takes a picture. Well, here I looked at this timestamp. I said 10:49. I said, interesting. I said, then if that's the timestamp of the receipt, by the time he would get back in that car, what time is he then seen on 1112 cameras? Because does it add up? So then she goes, this is what she does. Overton was provided a USB drive to preserve requested video. She forgot to redact this name. That's the name of the manager, last name. On November 17, 2022 at 11:53 hours, I retrieved the USB drive from Overton. The drive and paperwork collected from Overton was given to Agent Hill. Photos and copies of the documentation I collected will be saved to a disk and provided to Moscow Police Department as part of this supplement. Now the question is when did you do that, Leslie? When did you do that? And what were you looking for at that time? Like, you can't possibly, so what you're going to show here and say here is that anybody that would be looking at the 1112 footage, right? if you were so interested in thinking that the killer, right, is in a white sedan circling like a shark, right, there would be no reason to take a picture of a black SUV BMW. No, like none. Like what was the purpose of this exercise to go to Floyd's? I thought the purpose of the exercise to go to Floyd's was to make sure that he actually went to Floyd's. Okay, and to track it all out to see, okay, so you're telling me that you were actually watching the video footage from, like, what were you concerned? I don't understand. This kid tells you that he went to Floyd's. Okay, go to Floyd's. You see, oh, yep, he purchased. This is the timestamp. Oh, hey, while you're there at Floyd's, ask to see their surveillance cameras. So think about how this would go. You don't have a warrant. You go into Floyd's. Hey, we're investigating a homicide. I'm sure you guys have heard about it. The Idaho4, however they're going to announce that. We wanted to take a look. First of all, the way that she explains it is, we want to know if somebody by the name of Jack Showalter or John Jack Showalter, we're checking up on an alibi. I mean, are you checking on an alibi? What are you checking on? So, hey, we just need to see that. Are you allowed to look up in your files and see if this kid came here and purchased anything on 11/13 Sunday morning? Yep. Okay. Oh, and hey, so once it's a yes, here, can we get that receipt? Can we get this? Can we get? Oh, hey, by the way, let me see. Do you have cameras here? Right. So now wait for this. You have cameras here? Yep. So on 11/17, you weren't thinking at all that, oh, Floyd's, they have an outdoor camera here. Oh, hey, it also sees the road. Hey, we're going to preserve, like, so when do you go back to Floyd's to say, hey, we want the camera from 3:00 in the morning, from 2:00 in the morning, from 4:00 in the morning? We want to get this camera footage, right? So you're at Floyd's, but what would be the purpose to say, hey, we want the camera from outside to see what vehicle he's in? Why? So my question is to everybody is, what was the purpose of what he tells you he did? Okay. Are you thinking at all that this crime, because there was no 911 call until, I don't know, noon, that you have no idea when this occurred? You clearly know the story of what the roommates are saying, that there's a masked man in the house at 4, right? 4:30. Do you just totally not believe that? Think about this. You clearly don't believe any of that. If you are so concerned of what vehicle this man drives, right? And that you want to send it back to Agent Rob Hill to look at, for what? To compare it to what? To compare it to the vehicle that's leaving out of the area at what, 10:29 in the morning? Why are you so concerned with him saying where he was at 10:30 to 11:30 in the morning? Leslie Lehman's cell phone should have been preserved. I mean, immediately the thing that would be out, if you're Ann Taylor and you just read that report, you're like, now mind you, how this was found, by the way. is, look at, they won't even tell us the name of this folder file. That's crazy. Makes it a lot harder for someone like me. Okay, so then what I normally do is I would start writing things in. But that's report 76. Leslie, why are you writing this up? Then look at what she does. She does not type this up into a report until January 25th, 2023. When Ann Taylor's asking for her first supplemental. She knows better than this. You do not write 11/17/2022 there. That's not accurate. This is for the date of when you drafted this report. You didn't write this report on 11/17/2022. And then where's the follow-up of when you sent all of this stuff over to MPD? So Leslie Lane was going to get her ass chewed up and down because she just doesn't do her job. She doesn't write reports. What was the purpose of it though? So that's what Ann Taylor would have asked. Why did you, weren't you just checking? So on 11/17, Ms. Lehman, what was the purpose? What was the reason that you went to Floyd's? To see if he was lying where he went? Why would it matter where he was at 10:30 in the morning on 11/13? And then why were you interested in his vehicle? Well, weren't you just at his house on the 16th? Nobody took a picture of his vehicle on the 16th? If that's what you were interested in, you weren't interested in his vehicle on the 16th? So nobody took a picture, but then on the 17th, you're like, okay, we should probably care about his vehicle? Very bizarre. Isn't it true, Miss Lehman, that you guys didn't receive a 911 call until almost 12 o'clock? So then it is relevant where somebody is before a 911. I mean, you had the victims all home at a certain point in time, but then there's not a 911 call until 12. So it's between the time that they come home and everybody goes to sleep till the time that 911 was called that the crime could have been committed. And so you guys felt that the crime could have been committed. Just a couple hours before noon? Isn't it true? Like that's no. Oh, it's not? Then okay, explain that to the jury. What were you thinking on 11/17? Your notes don't say anything. Your notes don't say why you did what you did, right? Okay. Your report doesn't say it. You wrote this report up a couple months later, 3 months later, 2 months later. Awesome job. Woo! Okay. Tips and canvassing. Title of the episode: Tips and canvassing. That's the name. So what Ann Taylor would be looking at from this hard drive that she would plug in is she would see all these different folder files. And so here she clicks on the tips and canvassing. That's the name. Of the folder. Okay, what do you got here? Well, on November 19th and November 20th, Idaho State Police Detective Timothy Snell conducted follow-up multiple tips, including tips 105 and 641. Additionally, I conducted area canvassing for cameras in the residential neighborhood located south of 1122 King Street residence. Perfect. Who's I? Timothy Snell. Look at this. Suspect. Guys, can't make this up. Suspect. Individual, name redacted. Unknown male, date of birth 1982, 40 years of age. Okay. Witness, Officer Keeley, law enforcement, Wyoming. Do you guys not know how to like work your system? Witness 1, then it goes to witness 3. I don't know if they're supposed to say witness 2 there. He doesn't know what he's doing. Okay. So, on November 19, 2022, at approximately 12, Detective Timothy Snell and Cody Herman followed up on tip 0641. I contacted blank, blank, blank at the blank, blank to obtain surveillance video from October 16th through October 20th for an apparent incident that occurred in the area of the blank, which is adjacent to the blank. At approximately 14:13 hours, I received an email from blank, which contained a link to download the video she uploaded to a share folder. At approximately 17:23 hours, I forwarded the email and link to blank to download the video content and retain for evidence. At approximately 1500 hours, Idaho State Police Sergeant Jess Stennett, Detective Herman, and I were assigned to complete canvassing for cameras in the residential neighborhood. So see how this is just like number 1. This is part of it. Then here, see how it's like number 2? Now this is a totally different thing that we're going to be doing. So that's one of the things. And it's just like there's nothing. So when I would put a request in, it would be like, okay, tip 0641. Where's the follow-up on that? Okay, where's the interview? Does that make sense? Like, what did Schnell do here? He's just saying that followed up on tip 641. I contacted blank at the blank to obtain surveillance video from October 16th through October 20th. Is this the Winco? Don't know. No idea, right? But there's no information there, right? But clearly this was passed off to somebody, right? Now, at approximately 1500 hours, now this is number 2. So moving on to just something else that we did that day. Here we go. We did this neighborhood canvas. Okay. November 19th. Addresses between 342 through 1830 Victoria Drive. You guys know where that's at? That's back behind where Walenta is. We reviewed video at blank. However, there was no video content on November 12th or November 13th. Blank had a camera facing the roadway. However, after later speaking with homeowner blank blank, the camera battery had died and was not recording. Now, I'm going to pull up for everybody's viewing pleasure here. Victoria Drive, Moscow, Idaho. No, this is Leslie's. Just so you guys can see where it's at. So here, I just use this part of it. All right, can you guys see? Oh wait, hold on. This one. Sorry. All right. This is all Victoria Drive right here. So it runs parallel to Constagna. Very important though is over here, right here, where Ridge and Paradise is. This little house here, it had the shop cam here and it had the front door cam. So this is where that, when they say Paradise Drive 451, this is that view, because this is how you, when you're coming out King and to come down around, it's like this. And they're saying that right there, The one time the car goes like this to come then back around to go down. That's what they're saying. But right there's the 451. Now there's a tip clearly that came in. And now look at this. Now think about Victoria. Now this is not the address. In my opinion, we're looking at a house that would have been like right here on the corner. I didn't even put an address in. I just said here. Go to the street. But let's find out why anybody. So again, right here, let's go back to this report. And this is a tip. So, well, addresses between 342 through 1830 Victoria Drive. We reviewed video at this address. However, there was no video content on November 12th or November 13th. Blank, this person had a camera facing the roadway. However, after later speaking with homeowner, so let me get this straight. You say, hey, can we see your camera? Sure can. You look through it. After you look through it and you realize there's nothing on November 12th or November 13th, but everything else surrounding that day is there. Right, Leslie? Right? Okay. You say, hey, I noticed that there's nothing on November 12th or 13th. Did you delete stuff on those days? Like, this is a murder investigation. Think about this. Ready? This is what Ann Taylor's going to eat her ass up about. Ann Herman's and Jess, whoever the fuck, all these people, whoever was there. Okay, this is a murder investigation. And someone just tells you, oh, after speaking with the homeowner, the camera battery had died and was not recording. The camera battery? What do you mean the camera battery? Explain that to me, because this is 2022. None of my cameras, and they've been installed since 2021, run on batteries. Okay. They're Wi-Fi. So are you saying that your Wi-Fi was out as well? And then your battery also then your batteries was dead? I mean, come on. So this is what she says, though. Like, it's just accepting it at face value. It's just, okay, what? You're not going to accept that at face value. That should be suspicious. Mine is not. It's on a sim. Exactly. It doesn't matter. Let's say that all of ours had battery. The moral of the story is, well, I'm not going to accept that. That's what you said. I'm just not going to accept it, though. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to investigate it further. I'm going to, I don't know, get a search warrant. I don't know. I'm going to say, how did you realize that your camera battery was like, because this is the 19th, you idiot. When did you realize on the 19th? So you would then expect nothing to be there on 12, 13, 14, 15. When did you realize that your battery was dead? When did you change it? What type of batteries does your camera use? I know me. Man, batteries are hard to come by. It's not until you actually need batteries that you're like, fuck, I got to go out and get some batteries for that. And then I just started stocking up on batteries. But does this not seem a little suspicious that somebody would just, 12 and 13, but they just accept it? Because what do? They move on. So they said that they went through all those addresses on that day. That doesn't even make sense. 342 through 1830 Victoria Drive. Ready? Well, I want to go back to 342. That doesn't even make sense. There's only wait a second. Let's even go further down. I'm going to go further down. Hold on. Let's take a look at this. Ooh, daddy. Okay, we want to go further down. Take a look here. Regardless, I don't care. Battery, no battery. The moral of the story is that they just accepted that answer. Look at this. So Victoria, see Victoria Drive like that? Victoria then connects to Consaga right there, Constagna. And remember, the whole point of this exercise is because you believe that the person left up out of King Road, came down around right here, then splits off. Okay. Like there's no way out this way. So you have to split off like the Ridge Way. And then now to leave out and to get yourself onto Palouse River Drive. Remember in the beginning, Chris Engel said that they had a sighting of a vehicle on West Palouse River Drive. And it was then heading in order to head back to Pullman. Like it was like leaving out. So if you go back and you read his report, he's saying that there was a sighting on West Palouse River Drive. Chris Engel was told that. Okay. And so this is this Victoria Drive. And guess what? This house over here, South Lentner Street, goes and connects with Lauder, which would then, that's where a white vehicle was found over there. But just so convenient that this house, this one specific house that they were really interested in, had cameras, and it was in a very interesting location for them, that they felt that it was valuable. That the only one that they mentioned, even though they went to this house, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 20, 32, 33, 34, 35, possibly 36 houses. 36 houses. Go walk down your street. How many houses, for every 36 houses, how many cameras do you guys see in a neighborhood like this? That's nice. I'll tell you, my neighborhood, when you turn in, the first 4 houses on the left side all have cameras. Out of the first 6 on the right side, only 1 does not. So they were only interested and wrote down on Victoria. So the question would then be is, did Ann Taylor, I would have sent my investigator to talk to this person living at this address, right? And to find out way more about that dead battery. Okay. Because, and just for the record too, they didn't preserve anything. So what I mean by that is, let me go back to this. Like, we can't solve cases here when you don't do the right thing. You would have 100% gotten a search warrant to make sure that nobody went and deleted anything. That's what you would have done as an investigator. That should not have sat right with you. All right. A car just disappears and you don't have it leaving up out of that area. You don't have it on any exit. You're not able to track it anywhere. And so here you have this house that, 12th and 13th. Wow, look at that. I just don't have any. Shucks. Next. Addresses between 1752 through 1933 Fletcher Place. Blank had what appeared to be multiple cameras. However, after speaking with the homeowner, we learned they were not functioning cameras used to deter. They were just used to deter crime, but they're not functioning. Video was reviewed at blank and blank, blank, blank with no video content of relevance. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I thought, though, I'm going to read the sentence again because it doesn't make sense to me. So again, we're right here. And so we got to go to Fletcher Place. So this is an address. This is just one address right here. This address had what appeared to be multiple cameras on it. All right. It's like if you came to my house, If somebody was to just drive up, park in the driveway, make a lap around, they're going to be like, this house has multiple cameras on the outside. Okay, that's how I envision this. Multiple cameras. However, after speaking with the homeowner, we learned, look at who's the homeowner. They don't even put the name of the homeowner, right? So the defense would have no idea. They would just have to, who did they talk to? Who's the homeowner, Leslie? Timothy Snell, Jess Stinnett. Who's the homeowner? Who did you talk to? We learned that they were non-functioning cameras used to just deter crime. Video was reviewed at, then this is an address, and this, and I think it was, so they're just using this number, and then they're writing Fletcher Place. See? So then they have two other ones with no video content of relevance. What does that mean? How do you know what's relevant and what's not? How do you know what time period's relevant and what's not? Why wouldn't you say, okay, we're going to need just these 24 hours. Thank you. And preserve it, because you don't know what's relevant and what's not. What time frame? How are you determining that? Because you're just over on November 17th thinking it's relevant to go to Floyd's and know where Jack Showalter is at 10:30 in the morning. Get the fuck out of here. You would preserve it. So who determined that? That's what the question is who made that call? So, okay, when they'd be on the stand, you said right here there was no video content of relevance. No video content of relevance. How did you know what was relevant and what wasn't? What did somebody tell you what you were looking for? Were you looking for a white Hyundai Elantra on November 19th? Were you looking for a white sedan, just period? Were you looking just for a time frame? How long did it take you to look at you were on somebody's property. Were you there for hours looking through surveillance? It takes a long time, doesn't it? How long were you at this person's house to determine what was relevant? How long did it take you to go through? This is absolutely fucking, when you break it down like this is crazy. For example, in the Sheldon Jeter Jr. case, so what they did, there was a specific time period that they wanted, right? So they go across the street from Sheldon's. That's his aunt's house. They say, hey, we noticed that you have cameras here. Can we see some stuff during this time period, this time? What do? They look at it for a little bit. What do they do then in 5 hours? They come back with a search warrant and they take everything. They take the hard drive. They take it. They come back, and it wasn't like his aunt was like, get the fuck off my property until you get a search warrant. No, she came outside with her iPad and let them cruise on through everything. And then they came back, and now it'll be interesting when there is a trial too. And if this neighbor and aunt take the stand, because according to my investigation, somebody needs to take a little closer look at some possible deletions that occurred. But hey, nobody did any of that because there wasn't a single expert in that case. But that's not going to be the case for round 2. But anyways, they came back. What does the Pennsylvania State Police do? They come back with a search warrant and they take everything. They seize it. Why? Because that's what you're supposed to do. Pennsylvania. Okay, next. So this is all just this is just fucking crap. Next, addresses between this and this on Sunnyside Avenue. Now, Sunnyside is really important. I mean, they have a vehicle of interest clearly, and that they're interested in. Video was reviewed at this address and this address of Sunnyside Avenue. with no video content of relevance. Do you understand? They didn't preserve anything. And they made it so that it could have potentially done what? Like, so here, if you're Ann Taylor, right? And when's the earliest that she could have possibly got her hands on this report? Well, let's take a look. This is report 79. This report was not written on 11/20. Okay, this report was not written until 2/6/2023. February 6, 2023. The most important thing would be tracking down this car, right? Now, according to Chris Engel, he has a sighting, and it's at 430 West Palouse Drive, according to his report, that there's a sighting on West Palouse River Drive. Really, really important. Okay, so here, they just determined that there is no, not that there's no video, but there's no video content of relevance. Again, who made that determination? You don't know what is relevant and what is not. You don't have anybody. Oh, we're going to need to seize that. We're going to need to seize that. And how did you make that determination? You were there on their property because then I'm going to call this person to the stand. How long were the police at your house when they came? Oh, just, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. They asked to look at the cameras. I showed them my iPad. That's where I have everything. And they looked and they looked and did what? They just said, thank you very much, and handed me my iPad back and left. So they never got your iPad? I mean, they never seized your device? They never... No. And they were there for 5 or 10 minutes? Number of further questions. Next. That's not how you do... That's absolutely crazy. Addresses between 1875 through 1970. See this Anderson Place? Now, why this is important is Anderson Place. One of the, well, a woman that would always call on noise complaints lived on Anderson. Okay, she lived on Anderson. So I want to show you guys this map. Anderson Place. See down here? Anderson Frontier part over here. So Anderson, this little side street here, you have a possibility of 1, 2, 3, 4. And what would seem relevant to me is this house right here on the corner. Here, right? Because if you were to come down here, it's a dead end. Okay. So this is Sunny Side Ave. See this right here? This brings you actually out to West Palouse River Drive. But Sunnyside Ave, see where Paradise Drive is? If somebody was speeding out, okay, and when they get here to this, because Walenta becomes Ridge Road, so this is technically Walenta, and we've been just referring to this all as Walenta, but technically right here when you break off is Ridge Road, and then this is where you would then come down around, and right here on Ridge, that's the apartment complex on your left that had the that's the 1125 Ridge Road camera angle from the car that's coming like from over here off of Louder. Anyways, so we're over here and we're at the where are we down here? Anderson. Okay. Tell me that showed you guys everything. Oops. So, Anderson. Video was reviewed at one address with no video content of relevance. Not no video content, period. No video content of relevance. So that's a big keyword there is they're determining what is relevant and what's not. And the question that becomes is, was there video? Why didn't you seize it? Why didn't you ask for, again, I'd be calling these people to stand. How long were the police there? 5-10 minutes? Did they ever call you back? Did they ever come and seize the? They provide you with a. Did they ask to get your? They come back with a search warrant. Nope, 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 no to everything. And they were there for how long? 5 or 10 minutes? And you live where again? If I showed you a map, and I would literally go through, and I'd have a big old fucking map for this jury, and I would start making huge X's. Okay, I'd call everybody to the stand and make huge motherfucking X's. And I would say, okay, to the jury, you want us to believe in 2022 that this vehicle is not seen. It's seen every other time leaving, and you're able to track it. But then, poof, this white vehicle. Ready? Because what if the car that sped out wasn't a white sedan? What if it was a darker color sedan? Because you can't see anything when the car that's leaving is speeding out. What if it's a tan sedan? What if it's a mid-sized SUV? But I would go through this, and I would literally have big red X's for everybody that came up to the. I would literally just ask 2 or 3 questions, give them a red pen, and put a big X over your house. They didn't get your camera, right? They were at your house for five minutes. They looked for whatever. They didn't come back with a search warrant. They didn't take the video. They never came back again. X. Everybody. Somebody's life is on the line, right? That's the type of lawyering I would do. Somebody puts their life in my hands. You know what type of pressure that is? I thought being a Division I athlete, talk about pressure in 2 sports. No. Someone's life. Ever watch Primal Fear when he's like, why go gamble when you can gamble with someone's life? That's some fucking high stakes, right? Richard Gere, one of my favorite movies. Approximately at 1800 hours, ISP Sergeant Jess and I left a voicemail for Trooper Keeley in reference to the tip who wanted to provide information regarding the homicide investigation located on November. So that, by the way. All right. So that was the end of their neighborhood canvassing. Okay, when I say like that was the end, let me just, what I mean by that is the day that they go and neighborhood canvass. Okay. Right here. After they go to Anderson Place, that street. See how it says DCBA and that's all under 2? Well, E, not sure why they put E in this because it should actually be a new completely number. Okay. Approximately 1800 hours, 6 p.m. That is. We're done with our neighborhood canvassing, and now we're going to go talk to that Officer Keeley, who is from Wyoming, to talk about somebody that thinks that they know something about this homicide that had something to do with that other tip, 106. Okay. Now, Lana, well, how would you have done it? Very simple. You have the 1112 camera, okay? You're seeing all these people come and leave their house, get in cars, come, leave, go, whatever. And what about the house? What about all those houses right there on Walenta? So let me explain what I mean there. We just watched it yesterday, the day before. Ready? Hold on. Let me share this map. I want to know everything about this. First of all, I want to know everything about these dogs, but all right, zoom in. Okay. You guys, Walenta has houses that are so right here when you pull out, you're on King, then you make a left on Taylor, it's wrapping you around, and then we see those cars from that camera. These houses that are on the left side of Walenta, okay. See, I want to talk to all those people there. You're telling me that none of those houses have cameras right there? I want to talk to every person that I want to know every vehicle that's over there parked in those driveways, and I want to speak to every single person at those houses, because cars are just disappearing over there, and they've determined. Payne tries to say that this car was just pulling over and pulling off in that area. Why are you saying that? Why couldn't it have pulled into one of these driveways? Why wouldn't you eliminate that? You would. You would. Also, why is there no reports talking about the reason that we think that this car is no longer moving, but it's over here? Okay, is because we don't hear it. Every time we're listening to the sounds on 1112, when a car is going around that bend part of a Walenta to get to Taylor, because it just becomes Taylor, you can literally hear these cars because you slow down to go around the bend, and then they speed up, and you hear that. That's that sound that we always hear when these cars are coming around Walenta. How do you also not know? What about this? If I have to slow down and I'm making that turn, how do you, right here with this map, how do you, if I'm coming around this, see this bend here, right before you get to this 1104, that's a big parking lot where cars would park. How do you know that the cars aren't coming around there and then just pulling in to that area? They conveniently don't have the lane-to-lane camera that catches it from over here to see what's going on here, but we do have our ears. And I'm not asking for people to know what people are saying, but listen to the sounds. And it is common sense once you explain that the cars, again, they would be saying that, well, you're speculating to that. Well, at some point, I would be arguing that, Your Honor, the video sound just goes away. And I think the jury should be able to hear that and to be able to, I should be able to make that argument in closing argument. And how I would be able to try to get that in the door is through the experts when they would be testifying to it. So that's that for neighborhood canvassing. Now let's see what else I did for neighborhood canvassing. Okay. Tip 580. Question here is tip 580. This is how they labeled this. Okay. And so tip 580. And this was on November 19th, 2022, Idaho State Police Detective Leslie Lehman conducted a phone interview. Now, when I saw this, I got total fucking Isaac Funderburg vibes when she did it in the Dan Moore case. And she's going to make a phone call. I'm like, oh, God. Because in the Isaac interview, she makes a phone call and she doesn't record it, but she fucks up anyways, thank God. So here it is. She conducts a phone call with this person, a member of this sorority or fraternity, later identified as the blank of the blank, blank, blank of the university. Okay. Blank was located at home in Tri-Cities, Washington, when I called him. So this is a boy. I asked this person about the blank party the night of November 12th. Blank confirmed there was a party at the Sigma Chi house and there was a guest list for the party. Blank said that there was a ratio of 2 guests allowed. 2 guests allowed for every member, like every Sigma Chi member, you could invite 2 people. Okay. So back in the day when everyone's like, oh, it wasn't that big of a party, it was a smaller party. Okay. You could only invite 2 people. And I want to talk about this. This would make it a very interesting party, in my opinion. Okay. Yes, we're going to get to that. The first thing I would ask here is that normal that you'd have a guest list? And if you're allowed to bring 2 people, you have to tell them like what 2 people you are bring like a wait, what? This is like some fucking like celebrity VIP A-list like Diddy party. Okay. So I don't know how many Sigma Chi members, and would somebody that, I mean, Ethan's not technically a member. Didn't he get kicked out for that period of time, or he still was, but he couldn't live at the house? I'm curious of how many people were in Sigma Chi that didn't live at the house. I want to know that ratio. So I was thinking about these numbers because people were around town talking about how this wasn't that big of a party. It's like, well, what kind of party fucking was this? And a lodge party. Okay. That's what they were calling it, right? This person explained the security measures the fraternity uses to avoid people being able to sneak into the party. The blank is the area in the fraternity house where events are held, and that's the lodge. This guy said that the party went from 9:30 to 1 a.m. And he said the party went well. He said he has spoken to members of the fraternity who saw Ethan and Xana. So this is hearsay. At the party, blank believes that blank was the last person to see Ethan and Xana at the Sigma Chi house. So he gives first and last name there. This dude recalled speaking to blank about Xana having never been to blank neighboring fraternity. Blank planned to take Xana to visit the neighboring fraternity at the conclusion of the Sigma Chi party, but Xana and Ethan did not make it. According to who? According to who, motherfucker? Now, total freaking bombshell right there. Okay. You guys just hear that? According to this kid, I remember us talking and we were all talking about how the fact that Xana had never been to this other fraternity house. She's never been in there, never was in there. And at the conclusion of this lodge party, that they were going to go there. Nobody has talked about this ever in the history of this case. And if you have, well, then you didn't make too much of a scream about it because what? Right? So, boom. Xana and Ethan, or at least Xana, was going to another frat house after leaving Sigma Chi. Well, of course, this is hearsay. 2 things if it's hearsay. First of all, how would this person know that Ethan and Xana did not make it to this fraternity? And immediately I would start to have, like, after this party, for them to say that Ethan and Xana didn't make it to this fraternity, I would have reservations with, I'd be like, how do you know that? Did you go to that fraternity afterwards? Like, did you just stay here? What did you do? I'd have big problems with that statement. You'd have to do a lot more digging. This guy was at the blank party, but did not remember seeing Ethan and Xana. So now think about this. Wait a second. So we have to go back and read this one more time because all these blanks fuck it all up. Blank, blank, neighboring fraternity. Blank planned to take Xana to visit the neighboring fraternity. And what I think he's saying there is the person that he's just mentioning here, which he says that he has spoken to members of the fraternity who saw Ethan and Xana at the party because he didn't. This dude believes, and I believe this is like potentially the president. So who was the president at the time of Sigma Chi? Or at least in some type of a role like that. But Blank believes that this next person that he mentions was the last person to see Ethan and Xana at the Sigma Chi house. This Blank recalled speaking to Blank about Xana having never been to Blank. And that's a neighboring fraternity. Blank planned to take Xana to the visit. Planned to take Xana, not Ethan, to visit the neighboring fraternity at the conclusion of the Sigma Chi party. But Xana and Ethan did not make it. Now it's Xana and Ethan didn't make it. Blank was at the blank party, but did not remember seeing Ethan and Xana. Blank said house members who remembered seeing Ethan and Xana also included Blank, who may have had phone contact with Ethan at 1:30 a.m. Now, is that a screenshot that you got? Okay. But for him to say that 1:30 now, where is Tri-Cities located? If it's not a screenshot, are you looking at something that could have potentially changed the timestamp? That's what the only thing that sucks with all of that is. But at the end of the day, let's just sum it up, is that he's saying that this person may have had phone contact with Ethan at 1:30. And it's not this guy, somebody else. This guy confirmed there was no surveillance video in the Sigma Chi house. Why? Well, this guy said that we treat our parties like Derek Jeter and the A-listers at in the celebrity world do. This person said that personal videos taken in the house are not supposed to be posted on the internet. Again, this person confirmed that there was no surveillance. No surveillance at the Sigma Chi house. None. And that there's a no-no with the personal videos taken in the house are not supposed to be posted on the internet. So if you take them, you just don't post them on the internet. Well, that's interesting because we saw Dylan pouting about the, Halloween party. That was definitely in Sigma Chi. Blank, this guy confirmed the blank of the blank blank. Maybe it was vice president of the blank blank is blank blank. And he would also have a copy of the list of those in attendance at the party. There we go. Boom. I believe that they're talking to the president here. And then this is where it says vice president of the Sigma Chi, is also, and he would have a list of those in attendance at the party of November 12th, 2022. Blank, this person, had Ethan on Snapchat and said many other fraternity brothers would have his Snapchat. Blank said Ethan's closest friends in the fraternity would be, and gave these lists. Blank believed that Blank's party was the last party of the night at the campus. There may have been after parties at different fraternities or at the apartments at the Whites is what my guess is there, but Blank last saw Ethan and Xana at the blank on November 11th, 2022, and remembered having a conversation with Xana. So this was a small party. This is a small party, right? Small party. Don't run into either one of them the night of the 12th. Blank last saw Ethan and Xana on the 11th. Xana has never spoken to blank about anything that was troubling her or having issues with people at her apartment. Blank, this guy has never interacted with Kaylee or Maddie and believed the people he has listed would have known them because of their friendships with Ethan and Xana. Xana would bring her housemates, blank and blank, with her to hang out at blank blank, but did not remember ever meeting Xana's housemate blank. So that's one of the surviving people. At 1122 hours, I conducted a phone interview with blank blank at blank. IS Trooper Kristen was present. Blank, so this is another different person. Blank was with Ethan and Xana at the blank party, which is the Sigma Chi party, which ended at 1 on November 13th. Following the end of the party, Ethan and Xana went to blank blank room number. So it's a room number that's at the Sigma Chi house. It's an apartment in the blank house. After Ethan and Xana gathered some items in blank's room, the group, including blank's girlfriend, blank blank, like the first and last name, returned to blank within the Sigma Chi house, returned to the lodge. This person believed the couple packed up a couple of beers and Ethan's black dress jacket, possibly into a bag carried by Xana. This was the last time this person saw Ethan and Xana. Ethan and Xana did not tell this person where they were going to after leaving blank. Blank can only assume that Ethan and Xana left on foot and returned to 1122 King Street. Blank said that he and a group went over to blank following the blank party, but he did not see Ethan and Xana at blank. So that's where I believe that one of these detectives would have had to have said, okay, wait, you just said that you thought they were going to that other party. Why do you think that they didn't go? Well, because we ended up going there and we didn't see them. Something like that. But you had planned to go take them and you just, what? Blank said that he and Ethan attended a formal at blank prior to the blank party. Blank said the theme at the blank party was sports oriented. But blank could not recall exactly what Ethan and Xana were wearing during the parties. That makes no fucking sense. None. That's the formal that he went with his sister. Xana didn't go. Blank had a photo of Ethan at the formal party, but did not have any other photos of the evening. Blank this person interacted with Ethan almost every day as both were in blank and close friends. Blank said Ethan did not have any enemies and did not have any problem with anyone. Now here is the big bomb. This person knows that Ethan has this apartment. Blank said the same about Xana regarding being happy person without enemies. Blank has known Xana since freshman year. Blank could not speak to issues with Xana's security around the area or her apartment. Blank felt Ethan would spend the night at Xana's due to the distance to his own apartment and not because she was experiencing security issues at her apartment. What? What does that even mean, Leslie? What does that sentence mean? What are you talking about? Don't you think you would ask right here, oh, Ethan had an apartment? Where was his apartment? Here's a woman that just, oh, so Ethan had his own apartment. Oh, where's his apartment at? She doesn't care to know? Or did she just not write that part down? Is it going to come out in the audio? You think it's kind of important. Blank has met Kaylee and Madison, but did not know them well. Blank said that the same for blank, blank, and blank. Blank was at the 1122 King Street address on the Friday prior to the homicides. He spent 15 to 20 minutes there playing Pong, then went to the blank, probably the apartments. Blank emailed me the blank party attendance list and a timeline he had established regarding the night of November 12, 2022. I am literally falling over. He established a timeline. That sounds like Eldora Gatchel. Let's see this timeline. Okay? Let's talk about this. Oh, you did? So so this is the same thing with Eldora. Eldora was told by Leslie Lehman back in the day, hey, take pictures of your vehicle and send them to me. I need every angle of your vehicle. Like, what? Why don't you get your ass up out there yourself and go do that and go talk to the woman? Anyways, so here, he emailed me the party attendance list and a timeline. Let's talk about that timeline that he had established regarding the night of November 12th and the interaction with Ethan and Xana and the Sigma Chi members. So he basically went around and said, hey, if you can talk to the police, right? Or you can talk to me and we can get this timeline all together. The documents were forwarded to Idaho State Police Detective Ryan O'Hara for further investigation. Okay, Ryan. Okay, so here's then Anne writing up her next supplemental is circle Ryan O'Hara. Let's get that. Let's talk. Come on down, Ryan O'Hara. What the hell what's this further investigation? The audio of the interviews conducted, the emails exchanged, meaning back and forth with this person, and the screenshots of the text messages exchanged with blank have been saved to a disk and will be given to the Moscow Police Department. Okay, so this is how I create my motherfucking FOIAs. So the purpose of all of this is when we get to so this is part of my FOIA. All text/email messages to include pictures, screenshots, Detective Blaker and Dylan Mortensen, okay? All text, same thing with Bethany. 3, any text messages /IM between Detective Payne and Detective Blaker between those dates pertaining only to this case. You know, I don't care about other cases. Any text messages with attachments, screenshots between Detective Blaker and Pullman Detective Chris Engel. I put this in, it's been forever. A while ago. Number 5, then this is my police body cam. Okay, the new stuff that we wanted. Then we get to, so here we go. We're going to talk about this King Road because that's what's been on everybody's. So King Road had 3 different videos that were labeled in evidence. This is exactly how it was labeled. Item 856, 23M-1794 King Road video. Then a different item number that was entered into evidence under number 243, item number 243, See how 22M, that means that's the year. Okay. So think about this. Ready? Something that was collected or at least put into evidence. Okay. And this is a tag number. This item, 22M 2061 King Road video, that one was entered into evidence. It had to have been before January 1st of 2023 because that's how it has the 22M tag number. Okay. 23M, that means that it was entered into evidence once it became 2023. So the question now is, and then there was another item 771, and it's King Road video. So there's a difference between, okay, if it's entered into evidence, this would be how it was broken up. Okay, so what went in first and why? Hold on. So the question that should be asked is all the video. So when I put my stuff in, okay, I wanted it specific like this. I wanted it broken up like this. I wanted to know what all went in under this item number. What all went in under this item number. I did not ask for anything done. I want 12 to 12. That is not how I asked for my FOIA. Okay, and there's a reason. Because I wanted it broken up exactly how it was entered into evidence. I don't want you handing me from 12 to 12. And then if there's things that I can't see, I want an outline of all the video that consisted of this item number. Because here it's the King Road video, 1112, King Road video. So how we are all seeing it right now is it's like this hour to this hour, this hour to this hour. That's not how it went into evidence. We should want to know how it went into evidence because it tells a story of the investigation. What it seems like to me is that this right here was all that they were going to be putting in the 22M dash, the middle one. That's the item number 243. Until Ann Taylor is asking for stuff, right? And then here you're creating these new item numbers. Or if it's something other than that, then you need to explain this because why wouldn't this all been entered back to back to back to back to back to back to back? If it was like so, so much or whatever. I mean, so we want to know exactly what we're dealing with here. When you say that this is an item and you're just saying that it's 11, or actually not even giving an address, you're just calling it King Road video. Like, what the fuck? Like, okay. So this is how this was labeled. So how I asked for this back to me is exactly, I want this as is. I want this as is, and I want this as is. And if you need to make redactions, that's fine. Which I don't think you should be making any redactions. This is, what are we redacting here? They want to blur people's faces out. Okay, great. I just want to see how it was entered into evidence. I want to see how it was broken down. Okay. So next, documents. So here with this one FOIA that I did, I break it all down. Like, this is the surveillance stuff that I'm looking for right now. Okay. The next one is documents. Item 836, the Palouse property DVD. Okay. And I said, only redact addresses, phone numbers, and license plate numbers as per Hippler's order. Because you guys are probably all wondering, well, what's this Palouse DVD? Well, funny that you should ask. I will be happy to explain. The Palouse DVD is from Detective Blaker's report, one of them, where he says that the guy that's in charge of the rental properties of all of them, all the Palouse properties that you rent out in that area that are managed by Palouse River Properties Management Company. Blaker puts it in a report and saying that this dude just reaches out to him and says, "Hey, what do you need? What do you need? I'll get you a list of everybody's car, make, model, everything, where they live, who they are. What do you need?" Not just like buy the house. We're just talking anything that we, anything that our agency, our management company runs. All these people have to have parking passes, things like that. When they sign up for their lease, we say, "Do you have a car? What kind of car do you have?" All that type of shit. We put it in a database. Okay. So here, Blaker announces in his report that this guy reached out to him. And then all Blaker said was, "Well, yeah, whatever we can legally, whatever you can send me, whatever you're allowed to legally send me." And here's Blaker. What? No. When this guy says that he has all this type of information, you would say, "Oh, okay, well, whatever you can legally send me, but I'm going to get a search warrant for all of that shit, right?" Yes, that's what you would do. Are you guys planning on prosecuting? Are you guys planning on going to trial? You guys, a report that was written up about this was so after the fact. All right. And it's like, but he did this so early on. This guy gave you this stuff. It's like, and it was right after they came out and said that they were looking for this white Elantra. Next. Then I said, I want a section titled, item 837. Guess what they have? I want the Elantra plate data. Only redact addresses, phone numbers, and license plate numbers as per Hippler's order, because I was able to find that the campus, Idaho State or Idaho University of Idaho, created a database based off of their parking passes that they've sold, tickets. I want that. Okay. Next. Tip interviews. John Showalter's interviews with, and I said, this is item 462. And I said, and then I want M interview 2, requesting an audio video copy of the recording. No blurring M's face, please. Like, because guys, ready? This is all from what I'm requesting here is, do you see how it says interview number 2 there? M interview 2. That is the way that it's listed on the law table. And obviously that means 2. When you see that, that means it's the second interview, not the first. Okay. So here one would suspect that, okay, whoever this M, because it's redacted, it's M and then the rest is redacted. Interview 2 though. We've seen interview 1. And if this is Molly, right? This would be interview 2. But who did this? Because there is not a report that Moscow police did it. And there's not a report that Idaho State police did it. And this is why I told you guys, one day I'll tell you guys how I figured this out, that obviously Molly comes out and mentions that how she kind of talking to people, and got bombarded. Well, the FBI interviewed motherfucking Molly, but the FBI interviewed Molly before even Moscow Police Department did. Okay. And there's phone calls and there's emails. There's or not emails, but there's voicemails. All that shit's recorded. Where is all of that? Like, you have to show your work. Like, how do you get to these people? How they put out this interview with Molly, and it's just like, this cannot be the first time you're talking to Molly. It's obvious in the conversation. And I'm over here like, do not blur her face out. How and why? You guys watch all these channels out there. When we go and get body cam, we put stuff out on, different cases and people that are interviewed. Nobody's getting blurred faces. These are adults. You don't get a blurred face. Why are you blurring faces? Next. 767. I want the tip interviews. That's how they list it. They list it as tip interviews. And so I'm just like, listen, if I give you the item number, you pump that. Let me tell you how easy this is to look up. I'm giving you the item number, the piece of evidence. That's the item number. I'm giving you the tag on it. So when you say that this is going to take you an hour and a half to retrieve, the fuck it is. That's impossible. I want to be walked through the process. I am giving you the item number and the tag number, 23M-1116. Item number 767, 23M-1125. Dude, pull it up like that. That takes you no time. Telling me that it's taking you time to retrieve something, I call bullshit. When it's going to take time to retrieve things is when I'm not literally giving you I'm giving you basically a SKU number when you're at the store, when you go to return something and you don't have a tag and someone's like, God, I got to look this up. Hey, do you have your receipt? No, I have to find this item number. So I'm trying to break this down to be able to understand it. So think about now, I'm going to a store and I'm giving you basically the date that the fucker was made, the item number, the SKU number, put it into your system. Voila, it's right there. Yep, I need all the information on that. These are why my FOIAs get flagged. It's too easy. Next. JS interview 2, requesting an unredacted copy of this interview except for personal identification, birth dates, phone numbers, addresses. This request is per the order from Megan Marshall and Judge Hippler. Because I already put in my exhibits to show that. Then I'm asking for JS interview 1, 73823M dash. I want to show you guys something. Jack Showalter was interviewed for the first time on 11/16. I want to show you guys when they put this in. Ready? Jack Showalter interview 1 right there. Item number 738. Are you out of your mind? That item should have been, that's before they even did the damn autopsies. They held on to this and did not put this in until 2023, and it's item number 738. The date on this is wild. So you remember when Red-Faced Santa is saying, we don't have something. We cannot give them something that we do not have. This is how the police departments do it. They don't put it in, and then therefore it's not discoverable yet. Don't put in a report yet. That's discoverable. Waits till the last fucking minute. This is what needs to change. Why is it a game? Why is it a game? You shouldn't be able to use stuff. It's kind of like I just think something needs to change with here. You have a recording of somebody, right? That recording of them should be entered into evidence. There it is. It's in there. Then because if it's going to take you forever to write up your report, okay, which I don't get this. People like doctors and nurses, they have to have their report. Like they don't get to wait after they see you and perform surgery on you, and they don't write up your chart, 2, 3, 4, a year later. How do you even know what? No, you write, you do the work, you write it. What the fuck? This is not a game, but that's how they do that. That's how they play. I am every trial attorney's dream, wet dream. let me organize and do your discovery, and I'll get you everything the fuck you need. I'll tell you what you need. I'll tell you what you're missing. I'll tell you, like, let me pump you and get you this information. Okay? Nobody's got time for this. But hey, when Ann Taylor is saying that they were getting piecemeals, the fucking shit's all over the place, how we know that that's accurate is right here. Jack Showalter was interviewed on the 16th of November. How is his interview, just the interview itself, the recording, how is it item tagged 738? Well, because the person that actually wrote the report and then even just remotely gave then the information, like, so think about this. If I don't have a report written and I don't turn over the audio, how can anybody in command center know anything that occurred while I was interviewing Jack Showalter? And then I do that with all my work for a whole month. How is command center knowing what's coming from what I'm doing? And how are you then telling me the next day what to go do? How are you assigning me what to do next if I'm not getting these reports in, and if you're not hearing then what the interview was about? Bizarre, right? Now we get to vehicle chart. Vehicle chart. In my request, item 673, vehicle charts. There were 7 vehicle charts, meaning the FBI said that car that was of interest could be one of 7 make and models. Okay. This is very important because when Officer Payne and the rest of the world says, you guys, it was only one car, that is 1000% incorrect. That vehicle could have been one of 7. So what the jury was going to hear is and see is all of these 7 different vehicles. Well, let's go. How long would it take? Let me ask you a question. How long do you think it would take for you to find item 673 in the vehicle charts? What needs to be redacted from that? How much money do you think that you're going to charge me for that? That's why I ask people out there, please stop FOIA requesting. If you don't know what you're doing, let me fucking FOIA request. Or, I mean, come on, man. You're hogging up, like, someone's out there putting in all these ridiculous requests because I don't know. What do we have so far? And this doesn't, I'm not talking about jewels, or I'm not talking about plunder. I'm saying I have no idea who the fuck's over there pumping, because they're over here saying that this is taking so long to do because of all of these requests. Who's requesting things? Because nobody's putting anything out. How about that? I'm going to do a FOIA request on all the FOIA requests. That's going to be my next FOIA. Because I want to see who's FOIA requesting. Give me the list of FOIA. I want to see who's out there FOIA requesting. I want to see how interested mainstream media is, but they're just not they're getting the information and then just spinning around like fucking puppets that they are. Next is, okay, vehicle ID DVD. Can this be copied to a downloadable disc? I want a link for the actual video. I believe that this DVD that they've created and made into an exhibit, and I believe it is, and that's not just your chart, but then there's an actual vehicle ID. So it's the process on how the vehicles were identified. And that would have been done by the FBI. Okay. But it was given to the fucking Moscow Police Department because it was put into evidence. So do not sit here and tell me that it's not yours and you don't have it. And everything that I asked for has a tag number that the Moscow Police Department physically had and put it into evidence. So you cannot write me back and say, like I got the other day, which is Detective Jake Schwecke, due to the increased volume of public requests, the substantial numbers of records that you are requesting, and the city's legal obligation, it's going to take me 35 days to at least do this. In regard to tip 3195, the record you were requesting is an FBI record, and the city is not authorized to release FBI records pursuant to blah, blah, blah. I said, the fuck you aren't. This is not from the FBI. This is from the Idaho State Police. Unless they're going to say, which means it also tells me that they never gave you this. They never gave you any reports on this, but I'm going to show you the report. Moving on to phone data. Here's the big one everybody's been waiting for, the phone data. Lana, when are we going to get the phone data? Well, if people would stop requesting shit, we'd get it a lot sooner. Right here. I have DMV videos, vehicle chart. Okay. There's no expectation of privacy in a public place. There's a DMV video of Brian Kober walking into the Washington DMV. I want it. This should be one of the most important things. Give me the DMV video. There's no expectation of privacy in a public place. It is item number blank. This is blank. And there's I want the Pullman DMV. There's two different things. I want them both. Phone data. Right here. Phone data. Phone data. Here we go. Name of the phone and only health data info for 2 days, 11/11 to 11/13. So it's 12:01 a.m. on 11/11 to 11:59 p.m. on 11/13. Number 287. So in 2022, this Cellbrite USB was entered into evidence. It 1000% it exists. That it's 22M-2141 Cellbrite USB. I am seeking the health data pages from 11/11 to 11/13 and the name of the person whose phone it is. I was told I can't have the name, but I can have the initials. I said, fine. Okay. Then item number 848. So that Cellbrite USB that I'm seeking that was put in, it was put in so early because it's item number 287. Now this is important. Okay. I don't believe that it has anything to do with the victims or the roommates. I should take it back. No. I don't think it has anything to do with the victims, but it could potentially be one of the roommates. Next. Now, I want you to see how far this is. The item is 287. Now look at this. 848 and 970 or 870 rather. Look at how many items there are between those. Ready? I am seeking health data from 11/11 to 11/13 and the name of the person whose phone it is. Again, I've been told that it's only going to be initials. I'm fine with that. And so that's the number 870. Look at, they did not put in DM's Cellbrite as evidence. That means Ann Taylor could not have possibly gotten her hands on DM's Cellbrite until 2024. Ready for this bomb? Right here. 2024 item 0084 DM Cellbrite. Okay. DM Cellbrite. It was not put into evidence until 2024. How? Ann Taylor, that means she could not have gotten her hands on that. Okay. I am seeking the health data for 11/11 to 11/13. And I don't need the name, obviously. Next, in 2024, they did a gray key extracts, and I'm seeking the names of each witness whose phone has an extract using gray key and seeking the health data, the steps and the stairs of each phone that has a gray key extraction. Fuck around. We're going to fuck around. Number 914. This is why item number. And then it says B, redacted data. This is how the item number says. It says B, and it's redacted data. Well, I want the name of B. They're not going to give me the name. Okay? They're not going to give me the name. They said that I can have the initials. Well, guess what? You're going to give me more than B because B is, in my opinion, is the last name. So give me the first letter of the first name, and I believe it's going to be an MB. Again, that's just my thought. That didn't become an item number, though, until 2024. And I said, I think that's enough for right now. Thank you so much for your time and attention to this request. So upon so I've had new redactions to this, or not redactions, but I've amended this due to the fact that I don't need the King Road videos. We have them. What I need is how everything got broken down. That's the most important part. How these were entered into evidence. Then we're going to find out how Ann Taylor was asking for stuff. Now, let's go to, this is on 10/1/2025. This is the order. Memorandum decision granting in part plaintiff's complaint for permanent injunction. Okay. All right. On August 23rd, 2025, plaintiffs filed their first amended complaint adding Stacy and James. And they were seeking permanent injunction restraining the city from releasing 1, images of the interior of the victim's residence. That got denied. 2, images of the victims, whether blurred or not. That was upheld. Images of the bedrooms where the victims were murdered. That was denied in part. Images of the death scene / murder scenes, including images of pools of blood, blood spatters, and dried blood. That was granted in part, denied in part. Images of the personal property and items of the victims of the homicides found inside the interior and exterior of the residence, including but not limited to containers of alcohol, underwear, ID cards, and other personal items. Number 6, images of witnesses, including witnesses hugging each other and sobbing. 7, video and audio media containing sounds of the witnesses, including sounds of them sobbing. And 8, video and audio media containing statements of witnesses given to law enforcement officials, including statements evidencing their extreme emotions. Now, how this was all, because everybody should know already that Annie put in, Potts put in for those Liz Q photos, okay? And they came back with a $10,000 quote, okay? $10,000. Well, first of all, and it was an Idaho State Police item. First of all, as it says here, so we looked into some stuff. As it says here, it's these are the plaintiffs, and the defendant is the city of Moscow, a municipal corporation. Okay. Well, the question is, well, Idaho State Police, okay, does not say the city. It does not say, it says that this was against the city of Moscow. Okay. City. So. Okay, legal standard. Pursuant to Rule 65 of the Idaho Rules of Civil Procedure, a party may petition the court for an injunction and or a restraining order in a civil proceeding. While Rule 65 addresses temporary restraining orders and preliminary injunction, it only briefly addresses permanent injunctions by stating that before or after beginning the hearing on a motion for a preliminary injunction, the court may advance the trial on the merits and consolidate it with the hearing. Here, the parties stipulated to essentially forego a hearing on a preliminary injunction and instead submit the matter for a decision on the permanent injunction at the August 28, 2025 hearing. So everybody's been talking and wondering when Lana's going to talk about this. Well, I'm ready to talk about it. I'm ready to talk about something after I've researched something. Okay, I've been doing a shit ton of things. All right, now, number one, I don't think that there should have ever been a stipulation. Why are they stipulating? To foregoing, because listen to what they just said. Here, the parties stipulated to essentially forego a hearing on a preliminary injunction. That's to even see that they have merit. Like, can you even be doing this? That's what the whole preliminary, like, that said, hey, let's just forego that. Why are we stipulating to that? And instead submit the matter for a decision on the permanent injunction at the August 28th, 2025 hearing. There would have never been an August 28th, 2025 hearing if it doesn't get past the temporary, like, to even get there. Okay, well, whatever. Then it says Gem State Roofing United Components. Further, in order to deny a permanent injunction, the trial court must be persuaded that there is no reasonable expectation that the wrong will be repeated. I have so many questions about that. Idaho Public Records Act. This is her analysis. In accordance with the Idaho Public Records Act, so the Liz Q was done by Idaho State Police. Okay. Nowhere. So who, but it was for the purpose of this case. Okay. Are the Liz Q images, who do they belong to? Who do the Liz Q images belong to? The $10,000 amount of money that was quoted has to do with half of that money goes to, so this is what's weird about it. They quoted $10,000. And I noticed that the only amount of labor associated with it would be 2 hours or less. And that was actually included, and it was listed as $0 because you get 2 hours of free, they don't charge you. Okay. So then I said, well, that's interesting. This is only going to take 2 hours. Like, because the way that you're supposed to do this is you're supposed to do it in, like, you have to be very specific about your breakdown of the money. And when it's saying that they only quoted you for 2 hours of labor, and I'm like, so this will only take 2 hours? And $5,000 of it is in basically redaction time? I was like, I think they fucked up with this invoice because the time that it would take to redact is actually what's supposed to be put into the labor. That's how you would do that. Think about it. I mean, unless are they using AI? I mean, what? So I was like, that doesn't make any sense. We're going to come back to that. Okay. In accordance with the Idaho Public Records Act, there is a presumption that all public records in this state are open for inspection, except as otherwise provided by the statute. So this is IC 74-102. The IPRA provides a statutory mechanism by which members of the public may review public records so that they may be knowledgeable of the operations of their government. Yes. the performance of public officials, and the formulation of public policy. My channel over here is to help us, to educate us. When people think that something should have happened a certain way, we say, hey, this is actually how it's done. So no, the way that you're thinking and when you're commenting, you're wrong. And that would go for me too. Like, I don't fucking know everything. Like, come on, man. Like, but the only way that we can know everything or attempt to or gain insight is by, hey, we want to exercise our right to see what the hell has happened here. So a public record is defined as any writing containing information related to the conduct or administration of the public's business prepared, owned, used, or retained by any state agency, independent public body, corporate and political or local agencies, regardless of physical form or characteristics. Every person has a right to examine and take a copy of such public records. So I said, $10,000? Well, that's because you want to give it to me the way you want to give it to me. Do you know how much cheaper it is to buy a plane ticket out to fucking Boise? I'm going to fly out to Boise. I want a meeting. I want to inspect the records. I'm going to bring my own hard drive. After I inspect the records in person, you're going to sit there with a computer with me and we're going to scroll through this whole fucking shit. Okay? Then you're going to take my hard drive and you're going to plug it in. And you're going to download everything to my hard drive. Because I don't need you to redact anything. Because I'm going to help you out. I don't want any pictures, any, of Maddie's bedroom and of Xana's bedroom. I don't want any pictures of Yep, that's it. What do you need to redact? If I tell you you're not doing Xana's room and you're not doing Maddie's room, what do you need to redact? Right? Because now we're going to go to this. So, when a request to examine is made, the public agency or custodian has a specific time in which to review the records and grant or deny the request. There are certain expectations to disclosure as enumerated in this 74-1241A through G that justify a public agency denying a request. One exception is where production of records would constitute an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. An unwarranted invasion of personal privacy means disclosure of information used to identify, locate, or harass a juvenile, a victim of an alleged crime of mass violence or domestic violence, or a victim of physical or sexual abuse. Disclosure of information used to identify, locate, or harass. You guys, nothing that we are seeking is being used to identify, locate, or harass a juvenile. Number one, a victim of an alleged crime of mass violence or domestic violence, or a victim of physical or sexual abuse. 2, disclosure where release of information is likely to violate legitimate and substantial privacy interests. of the person identified when such interests are weighed against general public. You guys, we know whose room is who. We know here's the kitchen, here's the bathroom, here's these people's rooms. Disclosure where release of information is likely to violate legitimate and substantial privacy interests of the person identified when such interests are weighed against general public information. There is no way in hell that they are saying that they are bogged down with all these requests. That means there's a huge public interest. Okay, you can't claim two things here. You cannot hide behind the fact that you're going to say that nobody's interested in it, and that's why their privacy outweighs because there's just no interest here. Okay, you cannot use that's what they're trying to do right now, and they're not going to get away with it. Promise you. But more or less, in the same sentence that you're writing me to tell me that you guys have all these requests coming in, well, then there's public interest here. So the city has received a request attached to tip 3195. Just 3195. That's it. And the resulting interview conducted on February 7th, 2023 by Detective Jake Schwecke. Jake Schwecke, he conducted an interview on February 7th, 2023. I want that interview. He's from Idaho State Police. Well, due to the increased volume of public records requests, so I got you saying that, the substantial number of records you are requesting, I guess they're substantial, not really, but there's a lot of records, I guess, and the city's legal obligation. What legal obligation? To review and determine if there are exemptions from release of the requested records. The city will need a longer period of time to locate, retrieve, review, and prepare the requested record for public release. And that's everything I just kind of read you guys, all of that. Okay. It may take the city more than 35 days to obtain this information, conduct our review, and provide it to you. But hey, guess what? In regard to tip 3195, the record you're requesting is an FBI record. How is it an FBI record? I'll tell you how. Because they were picking and choosing, just like Payne was, on where they knew all along when they were like, here, send this to, here, we'll take this. Send it to the FBI and give it in their database. Here, send this to the FBI. That's fine, great. Send that to the FBI for whatever reason. But also it says in the, what I'm going to show you is that, well, hang on, we'll get to it. You're sending it and you want it to be in the FBI's hands because you want to make it hard to obtain. That is absolutely the reason that they were doing what they were doing and how they were doing it. We're going to make you have to go through so many loops. And when I say we, the defense team, then we, the public, like that's the order here. Remember when Ann Taylor asked for that, for a TUI and all that, and she wanted to have judge signing shit? This is what this was about. Shit was all over the place. Why would that interview be with the FBI when an Idaho State, when it was passed off to an Idaho State police person to do it? Okay. Now, the plaintiffs have standing to assert a privacy interest in the records to be disclosed. First, the court must determine what privacy interest, if any, the plaintiffs have in law enforcement records they seek to keep from public disclosure. How do they have any? To determine this, the court must look to the language of the statute and the cases which interpret what constitutes an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. These are not minors. How are you claiming a privacy interest? Just beyond me. To begin, IPRA defines an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy as either one, disclosure of information used to identify, locate, or harass a victim of an alleged crime of mass violence. And so what it says here is that the plaintiff argued that plain language of the statute confers standing for them to bring this action because the information being disclosed depicts the victim's bodies, which identifies the victims and may be used to harass the family members who are considered victims as set forth in IC 19-5306. The Victims' Rights statute specifically defines victim as an individual who suffers direct or threatened physical, financial, or emotional harm as a result of the commission of a crime. Okay, ready for this? Basically, Meghan Markle made a decision, and guess who also made a decision at basically the same time? Judge Hippler. And so guess what I did? I went and used Judge Hippler's decision on releasing and unsealing documents. Okay. That was my exhibit. Right? Right. So, according to Judge Hippler, only witnesses and names of witnesses, their names aren't going to be redacted. And we're going to only redact their addresses. Like, so I put that in as an exhibit. So, moreover, the legislation specifically defined the privacy interests of any deceased person when disclosure of certain information is permitted after notification to next of kin, but opted not to include the same definition. The city acknowledges in drafting this provision that the legislature recognized privacy interests do not evaporate on death, yet argues because it did not include the same language in 17A, such provision does not grant plaintiffs standing to assert a privacy interest on behalf of the decedents unless a probate is opened and they are serving in a personal representative capacity. Ready for this? So we, the people, are being fucking screwed because I'm going to continue reading. If the city did a shitty job arguing, think about this. The city does a shitty job arguing, and the public, like, who's the city supposed to be working for when they went and truly had this? That's why I'm saying this whole stipulating. Why was there a stipulation to begin with? Interestingly, in arguing that plaintiffs have no privacy interest to establish standing, the city, quote unquote, believes that it struck the appropriate balance in balancing the plaintiff's privacy and the interest in an informed citizen. Like, we tried to weigh it, and we believe that we took into the account of, hey, yeah, there's going to be parents out there, and this is, and then we also took into account, God, there's so much interest. So how can we do a happy medium here? And this is what we're going to do. We're just going to blur the bodies, and we're going to send out to ABC or whoever the hell we sent it out to. They got all the photos. The media, one media, maybe a couple media outlets got everything. And then this injunction then came. Okay. And so the magistrate here, or Judge Meghan Markle, she's like, well, it's interesting that you're, on one breath, you're saying that the plaintiffs have no privacy interest. But here, I'm going to say, well, in your argument, you said, well, we tried to balance their interest with the public's interest. But I thought you said that they have no privacy interest. And this is where I'm coming in and saying, exactly, this fucking dipshit did a horrible job arguing this motion. So what the hell? What the fuck? The city, whoever that dude that was up there arguing, okay, it's almost like you fucked up on purpose. The city's actions in blurring certain portions of the investigatory records prior to disclosure and balancing plaintiffs and the public's interest cut against its standing argument. Exactly. So, but why is that our fault? That the guy that was representing the city of Moscow, the people, are fucked because of that. We're not going to be, because I think that there should be somebody should file. There should be an appeal. Think about that right there. The city's actions in blurring certain portions of the investigatory records prior to disclosure and balancing plaintiff, they had no right to do that. And that really, and or like, okay, you do, but what's your justification for it? Because those pictures came out before there was any injunction. So when you put them out and you blurred them, why did you say that you were redacting them? Just because they misspoke and just because they don't know what the fuck they're doing does not mean that we should suffer moving forward. I don't want to see the crime scene. My requests actually specifically say I do not want the bedroom of Maddie or Xana. For example, one of the things I was seeking is homeboy taking pictures. He's done this so many times. He goes and he deletes pictures during the process of him. He's like, oh, that was a little smudge or blurry, blah, blah. You're just supposed to leave it as is. He's deleting these pictures in his roll of film. Well, my simple question is I need to know, I want to know where those pictures were taken. Was he outside? Was he inside? Was he in? Where do those fall in the roll of the pictures? I want the pictures produced to me in the order that they were taken. And that's how you should want them all produced. Because if we're actually going to be critiquing anything or making sure that people are doing their jobs, there is actually a certain way that you're supposed to photograph a crime scene. Go to school and listen. And they give you some big ass thick books of procedure, criminal justice. Go check it out. Criminology. Go check it out. Shout out to my Bearcats out there. All the athletes taking criminal justice. Woo! Well, knowing that the presumption under IPRA is full disclosure, when asked why it took affirmative, so under the record, it's full transparency. And so here, Megan Marshall's like, why the fuck did you do what you did? So why did you take action to blur or redact the initial disclosures prior to any court intervention? And it's like this was done on purpose. And the city responded that it did so in reliance upon the exemption under IC 74-124 IC or 1C, thus agreeing that if plaintiffs had no privacy interest to assert on their own behalf or on behalf of the decedents, it would have been unnecessary to blur or redact the records. Exactly. Instead, under its statutory obligation, in quotes, it was required by law to disclose investigatory records on request with such redactions. No. We're not getting any of our requests right now. There's requests that we put in August. August, still don't have. September, still don't have. It is going to be Christmas. While plaintiffs are considered victims and afforded certain rights as set forth in IC 19, this does not have application in this particular case. The court finds that 74-101 17 AI does not have application in this particular case. The information to be disclosed is not being used to identify, locate, or harass a victim of an alleged crime or mass violence. So Megan Marshall just determined in her order that you can't say that you can't use. Remember, I said it's like one or two, one or the other. So number one, she's saying we don't find that does not have standing with number one. So then you're going to number two. She's saying that the victims are known. That's what I just told you guys. The victims are known, located, and the murderer has been convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment. Exactly. Likewise, disclosure is not being used to harass the victim, even if the term victim encompasses family members. However, she determined that the second part does apply here and provides standing for plaintiffs to assert their claim. Now, why I think we've seen a halt with Hippler. Let me read 2 again. 2 says, disclosure where release of information is likely to violate legitimate and substantial privacy interests of the person identified when such interests are weighed against general public information. So their privacy has to outweigh public interest. But whose privacy? The Idaho Supreme Court has yet to address the issue of whose privacy interest is protected under IC. Thank you. Amen. This is going all the way to the Supreme Court. And that's where we're headed. We're getting a lawyer. I'm getting a lawyer. Okay. Because this is not only a winnable battle. Okay. It is an important battle. What has been done to anybody that has been FOIA requesting since this case has been determined that, hey, he pled guilty. It's extortion, motherfuckers. You're extorting me, man. You are extorting. How is it not extortion? I want to come to Idaho for an entire week and I want to stand and watch you do FOIA requests. And I want to see I want to see the process. I want that to be part of my documentary, the process of this. Because I don't think, I love all the people that work over there. You guys, they're just scared. They don't want to make any mistakes. Oh my God. Like, they're not trying to look for stuff and be like, hey, we don't want to, like, we're redacting things that are like, oh my God, these sleuths are going to find stuff that's going to, dude, there should not be this type of pressure on these people when they're working every day. 2 people should not be just doing a FOIA. All that money that was given to the freaking, where's Brad Little? Okay, you guys were given how much money over there? Let's break down this money and see where all this money was spent, because this is still part of it. Okay, they should be given funds. Go and hire people. Where are you at, Josh Hewitt? You're not working. Get your ass down to Latah County and sit in these rooms and do FOIA requests. Those poor women over there in Latah County, 2 people doing this. There's only 2 of them? 2? And they're running all the city stuff too? That's insane. I feel for them. Okay. So the Idaho Supreme Court has yet to address the issue of whose privacy interest is protected. But cases from the U.S. Supreme Court that have interpreted a similar provision under the Federal Freedom of Information Act provide guidance. It provides just guidance. It's interesting. Under FOIA, FOIA. So now they want to, okay. Is this a FOIA request or is this a public records request? So under FOIA, a public agency shall make records available, accept records or information compiled for law enforcement purposes that quote unquote could reasonably be expected to constitute an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. So guess what we're going to do? We are going to take on the fact that there is a difference between the state. This is a state issue. This is why are we federally? Every state has its own way of doing things. Okay. Just because the feds want to do things to hide the way that they're shitbags. Okay. Well, no. Hey, let's put it to a test. Let's put it to a test. Again, and this has nothing to do with wanting to see I personally think that the record should be inspected. You should be allowed to inspect it. I don't need a copy of it. Okay, but as a citizen of the United States, and if we go into that state, we should be able to go into the building, have a meeting, and be able to inspect the records. Something like that, especially after, I hate to say this, but Olivia Gonsalves was able to go in and inspect the records. She saw stuff unredacted. She's a member of the public. Just the other day in the hearing that Kurt, in the Robinson case, his parents asked to be in, a ridiculous request. Literally, Robinson's lawyers asked the judge, hey, we would like to keep his family in during this closed hearing portion. For them to even make that request was unbelievable to me. No, they don't have, they're members of the public. Okay. Why would they get to stay in during that closed portion and to even ask that? Like, that's embarrassing to even ask that question. And to have the family even thinking that would be a possibility, that's ridiculous by the defense. What a sense of entitlement. I'm sorry, but that's just crazy. No, they're not. They're not going to be in there. And they weren't allowed to be. And that judge did an amazing job by saying, no, you're not going to be in here. We understand, but absolutely not. When does it end then? Can you imagine? That would be like this. Can you imagine Steve Gonsalves telling Judge Hippler, hey, I want to be in here when all these closed hearings are happening? Like, Judge Hippler would have been like, go get him, Steve. Then after they use the FOIA part, then they say, however, unlike IPRA, there is no definition of unwarranted invasion of personal privacy within FOIA's statutory scheme. Instead, leaving the issue of whose privacy interest may be asserted or protected to federal courts to interpret. We're going to we need to get this all. Here we go. How can you claim a privacy interest in somebody else? That is absolutely unfucking believable and unconstitutional as far as I'm concerned. So let's go. You can't. You should not be able to claim a privacy. My mom should not be able to claim a privacy interest in me. What? So I think one way to ensure that stuff wouldn't get out to the internet and yet still maintaining, what's under law here is in the statute is, hey, we're not going to give you the material so you can go disseminate it. Okay. But if you want to see, because you want to check out and make sure that we're doing our job, absolutely come on down. Come on down. That's how it should be. And okay. Because it's like, why would I pay $10,000 to get a FOIA request when I could pay $250, $300 to fly out to Idaho? They're going to meet with me. And for 2 hours, I get you guys for 2 hours for free, right? You're not going to charge me. So I want to inspect records for 2 hours. And then y'all are just going to have to trust me on what I report back. I'm just kidding. Y'all are just going to have to trust me. Next, it says, Further, while not controlling, a district court in Ada County also concluded that, quote unquote, family members of a deceased person have a right to avoid, quote unquote, public disclosure of their deceased family member's corpse and other death scene images. Yeah, death scene images. So this is wild. That would impugn the character of the deceased, of the family's memory of the deceased. Again, this is why I think that, yeah, it should not be disseminated to the internet. But I'm going to come in person and inspect the records. Think about what was going on before there was the internet, you guys. How could you inspect the records? Go and see the records. So there was a decision in the case that they cited here in this district court in Ada County. So we might have to go. This was in March 14th, 2025. I want to go appeal that. Okay. They just cited a case literally from March 14th, 2025. It was C. Gaylord versus Clifford, Ada County case. So what are we going to do? We're going to find out everything about this because we're just going to see if Meghan Markle, we got to really look into this. So you're going to go see the records then? Yeah, why wouldn't I go see the records if I want to go see the records? Of course, you could do whatever you want. Here, plaintiffs seek relief both for their own privacy and on behalf of the decedents. Whether the privacy interest of the person identified is the decedent or the family member of the decedent, plaintiffs have established a recognized privacy interest in preventing disclosure of images or videos depicting their deceased family members and the death scene. Well, what if somebody's arguing that we don't believe that that's the death scene? What if it's a staged crime scene? Because the defense is saying it's a staged crime scene. So, therefore, the plaintiffs have standing under IC. This is her justification. The plaintiffs have proven their privacy interest in preventing disclosure of certain investigatory records without additional redactions outweighs the public's interest in disclosure. There can be no doubt that the photographs, video, audio, and other investigatory records in this case are incredibly disturbing. What is she talking about? I don't think an interview by Leslie Lehman at Floyd's Cannabis is incredibly disturbing. So you're not going to use this. This is the moral of the story. You want to use this for more than just a death scene. And that's what I have a problem with. You're doing this right here and encompassing this whole investigation. And it's absolutely bullshit. Having established plaintiffs have standing to bring the claim, the next inquiry is whether their interests outweighs the public's interest in disclosure. You guys, the defense was claiming that this man was framed and that potentially the police were involved in it. Ann Taylor went and asked for every single buddy that worked for the police department's personal vehicle make and model. Why would you ever need that? Why did she have experts lined up to talk about that the scene was cleaned up afterwards? And that they're saying this happened in 2 minutes. It's like, you think that this happened, the killings, everything, in and out, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And yet somebody cleaned the scene as well. Cleaned up, wiped up prints. The records are difficult to digest and provide a raw view into the horrific tragedy that occurred on November 13th, 2022. Yeah, but it's reality. This is reality, man. That impacted plaintiffs, a college community, and the world at large. Exactly, the world at large. and we have a right to know. Prior to releasing these records, the city took measures to blur the decedents' bodies to prevent an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy while balancing the public's interest. That's just their. No, they didn't, though. Okay. That's what they're claiming. They had no right to do that, though. So you're going to have the same idiot then up there oral arguing, or I'm sorry, let me take that back. The guy that was oral arguing why they did it isn't the guy that did it. Okay. He didn't make that decision. He didn't do it. He was brought in. Who redacted the images? Is that's the only person that you would, what's the intent? Why did that person do what they did? And I want to see the response when they provided the media. Where's the FOIA? Where is the FOIA of the media saying they wanted all the pictures? So that's the number one thing that you need to look at. Okay, here, they put a FOIA in. The media did. They give them 700 photos. Okay. When they would have provided the 700 photos, the government, aka the Moscow Police Department, had to respond to the FOIA like how I get right here. Dear Lana. Dear Lana. The city. So, dear Channel 3, we've received your records request. I want to see what they cite in the bottom paragraph. Okay. How they're saying to me 74-1041A and federal, see that federal regulations? This is when I said, okay, let's go. We have a problem. Federal regulations. Well, why is this? And federal regulations. This is when they're trying to say that the FBI has that. But they want to show me how to go get this through the FBI. But here, in compliance with the requirements of Idaho Code 74-1035, the city attorney for Moscow has reviewed your request. You have the right to appeal a denial by filing a petition in conformance with the provisions of the Idaho Public Records Act. And when I said, hey, here's what Hitler said, the names, in order for me to request things, I need to see the names of this table so I can tell you guys where to find things, what I need, blah, 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 because there's stuff that I don't need. Nope, we can't give you that. We're not willing to change our policy. I said, I'm not asking you to change your policy. My request is within your policy. You're not supposed to redacting the name. Why are you giving me initials? And they said that is an invasion of privacy. I got so many requests from you guys back in the day in 2022, and all you did was give me names, addresses, everything. Everything. So those people didn't have. These people aren't victims of anything. There's no victims that I'm asking for. What privacy interests are we talking about? What are you talking about? Whatever, right? So, I want to see what the city wrote when they gave away the 700 pictures, because let's just see what they said. Plaintiffs have recognized privacy interests, but on a balance, the public has an interest in the investigatory records concerning this horrific tragedy and how the investigation was conducted. Exactly. This is the stuff I want. I don't want to see. Oh my God. That's not what this is about. We're talking about interviews. We're talking about when somebody would tell you something. Did Leslie Lehman go follow up with that? I want to see the dates so I can put it all in chronological order to see what they thought was pertinent and when they thought it was pertinent. And here is the way that they conducted their investigation. Zoop. It should all be in chronological order, and it should be so easily done in chronological order because that's the way the investigation flowed. Plaintiff's privacy interests in preventing disclosure of the death scene images that would impugn. Oh, I already said that. Hold on. All right, here. There is little to be gained by the public in seeing the decedent's bodies. The blood-soaked sheets, blood spatter, or other death scene depictions, whereas the dissemination of these images across the internet and in public spheres where plaintiffs may come upon them by happenstance, as has already occurred, causing them extreme emotional distress, is an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. Then I am just so then how in the world are there criminal justice books out there to teach us our if I wanted to give here, Scott Roeder, I want you to tell me about the blood spatter. Tell me about the blood spatter. What spatter? Well, yeah. Let's look at this. Tell me about these gravity drops. Tell me, why would anybody be even thinking that you could say that this was something was cleaned up? Or could we talk about, is the person that was stabbing right-handed, left-handed? Where was the person standing? Okay, they did this drill that they went through the house and tried to mimic the crime scene. Okay, and now according to Roeder and just the minimal stuff that he showed me, he said this person was really cool, calm, and collected. They weren't running around everywhere. But that's just based off of the small amount, so I want to give him and do all of this. And it's like, because I want to know why Ann Taylor was claiming these things. I want to know why 25 experts were set to be on the defense's witness list and already had written reports on the scene. And going to claim that it's opposite of what the state determined, and they determined within just a couple days. And why would you not think for a second that this could have been done by 2 or 3 people being involved, or versus just one assailant? So to say that there is little to be gained by the public in seeing the decedent's bodies, the blood-soaked sheets, blood spatter, or other death scene depictions, whereas the dissemination of these images across, so I said dissemination, we're not asking to disseminate these across the internet. I would want to bring someone like that and inspect and in person. The city has blurred certain portions of the investigatory records, but additional redactions are necessary to ensure that there is no unwarranted invasion. Well, what's unwarranted? How would that have anything to do with Bethany's room, Dylan's room? The spare bedroom is off limits. Who the fuck is claiming a privacy interest in a room that nobody lived in? Explain that to me. I want to hear this argument in open court. I want a record of this circus. Who's going to get up there and claim a privacy interest in a spare bedroom? What is the unwarranted invasion in that you are not giving me the pictures of the spare bedroom? I want to hear this argument. The blurring is simply insufficient, says Megan Marshall, as it still allows the viewer to see the outline and contours of the decedent's bodies. I've seen the pictures that were blurred. No, you can't. rather than, and oh, wait, it's still the contours of the descendants' bodies and invites rather than dispels any speculation about how, where, or why they were positioned. So you believe that they were positioned. Like these arguments just are bad. The fact remains the murder investigation and the criminal case are closed. Exactly. What's the problem? She's going to get blown up. This, when I say she is going to get blown up, this writing is going to get blown up in a courtroom. It's bad. Those just horrible arguments. The fact remains the murder investigation and the criminal case are closed. Perfect. I'm so glad that you wrote that on the record. It's a closed case, right? So the FBI that worked on this closed case, right? They can't possibly have an investigation. What are they investigating? This is a closed case. Are they investigating you? This is a closed case. Releasing these records will have minor effect upon those who continue to be perplexed by the facts. No, actually, what facts do you think they were perplexed by? Because I got some arguments for you on the facts that I'm perplexed by. And it has nothing to do with their bodies or the blood that I haven't seen yet. None of that. I'm going to tell you what perplexes me. But the fact releasing these records will have minor effect upon those. If it has minor effect, then what do you mean? Then release. These arguments are so horrible. Those who continue to be perplexed by the facts or fixated on unfounded conspiracies, whereas it has and will continue to have profound effect upon the decedent's loved ones. No, you're not going to pass the buck to us that you went ahead and did a plea deal. You don't get to pass that buck on to us and try to make it seem like, God damn you people. You are so insensitive. Excuse me? No, you pass the buck by saying we're gonna have a plea deal with the devil. That's you're going to bear that burden the rest of your life. I'm not doing that for you because I have questions. I'm not. The hell, Megan? I have questions about how the hell you could ever sign off on a search warrant and an arrest warrant when you knew all the shit was a lie. That's my question to you. That's what I'm perplexed by. That's what was going to come out in that trial. Perplexed. We're just fixated and fascinated on unfounded conspiracies. Who's talking about a conspiracy? It's a fact that the defense was saying that somebody else did this crime. And it's a fact that the defense was claiming that this crime was committed by more than one person, not the right time, and that the text messages and what was going on with the people that were inside that house, it's not the way that the state is claiming. And let's start with the dog. The city may disclose the investigatory records in this matter, but must black out any areas within the images, photographs, video, or other media that depict any portion of the decedents or their bodies and the blood immediately surrounding them. Thank you, Megan. So why is Moscow Police Department not abiding by this? I said, please re-release all of the written reports as Megan Marshall has outlined right here. This isn't about photographs. I want the reports to not have blankety blank, 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 did this with blank and the words the being taken out, the word Sigma Chi, whatever sorority, what, the word he, she, the word, the nicknames of people's house. What? The court cannot find plaintiffs' privacy interests outweigh the public's interest concerning the dissemination of audio, video, or photographs depicting one, so this is where she's like, yeah, you don't have an interest in this, which is one, the interior of the bedrooms except as provided above. So what do I write to Moscow Police Department? I staple this and I said, how are you claiming privacy? They're telling, this order is saying that you do not have it. The court cannot find plaintiff's privacy interest outweighs the public's interest concerning the dissemination of audio, video, or photographs depicting one, the interior of the bedrooms except as provided above. That means everything's coming. Two, the exterior or interior, including rooms other than the bedrooms of the residents. The personal property and items of the decedents found inside the interior or and exterior of the residence, including but not limited to containers of alcohol, underwear, ID cards, and other personal items. That means that's all fair game. Witnesses, including audio of crying. Or 5, statements of witnesses given to law enforcement officials, including statements evidencing their extreme emotions. Despite the horrendous nature of this tragic event and its distressing dissemination across the world, the fact remains that it was a quadruple homicide with investigatory records. These records, much like many law enforcement investigatory records, invade the privacy and the province of individuals, including suspects, witnesses, victims, and the like, and here, plaintiffs and others unnamed in this lawsuit. However, keyword, does anybody remember what they learned in school, what however means? However, these records are precisely what the law affords the public to obtain under IPRA. So how are we not getting what we're supposed to be getting? The response I got from just a couple days ago, I'm going to read it verbatim. I could not believe this response. They said, Lana, we're not going to change our statute for you. I said, change your statute. I said, who's putting 10 on 2? Lana, we are not going to change our statute for you. Change your statute for me. Let me just read this. I said, I'm not asking you to change your statute, but by God. Because they said, I said, I want Dylan's, Bethany's, in the spare bedroom. Pronto y pronto. We're not giving out the bedrooms. I said, so you want me to, so then I have to sue in order to get them. And they know this and they're fine with it. And right when we do sue, they're going to turn them over, but they're just like, they're going to make you do that step. Okay. Because guess what? They want to be in good graces with the families and the university. And it's like, and you want to try to make it seem like I'm being so insensitive. So I'm going to make sure it's very clear in my argument that I have no interest in the bodies of anybody. None. I said, we can't even, it's like you guys have gone to, and I'm going to make sure I state on the record that they have actually protected Brian Kohlberger's interest more than they've protected anybody else in this case. And I'm going to put that on the record. A guy who, by the looks and likes of Miss Megan here, says, it's a fact. This is closed. Yeah. Well, give me my DMV video. Okay. Put out his interview when he's sitting there with the police in Pennsylvania. However, okay, great. It also says that, so then wrapping this in a perfect bow here It goes back to Miss Potts's $10,000 FOIA. And so she calls me and she's like, hey, I'm going to read this to you. What do you think? And what do you even think about this? Like, remember he said he was going to upload all of this for free. Now he comes back and says 10 G's. I said, 10 G's. I said, dude, these motherfuckers are insane. I said, we're just loading this ammunition, you know? I said, no. She's like, well, technically it's Idaho State. And do you think it's different than it's because it's Moscow and blah, blah, blah. And that was, they were suing the city of Moscow. And because he's over here claiming that in order to, it's like, she's like, well, isn't there got to be something that we can do? Because he's using the decision that was made in a case that doesn't pertain to him, right? Because Idaho State Police wasn't sued. So why would he ever, it's like you can't go and pick up any type of lawsuit that has to do with a totally different case and apply it to, I was like, well, they were an agency of, you know, Moscow and they were in charge of it. I said, the questions that it come down to is, did the Liz Q images, who has custody of these? Whose custody and control are these images? I said, but I can tell you this, based off of if they want to hide behind this puppy, I said, it might be a better way to go about it that, go for everything that doesn't need any redactions. There should be no time in anything, right? There should be nothing to be looked at. That you don't need to redact anything, because based off of what you want to hide behind, it's saying that, so just the 2 bedrooms are off limits, right? Because that's where all the heavy redacting would be. And so, like, let's just remove those and let's see you hide behind, well, let's actually just weaponize what you tried to hide behind. So it says, therefore, the city shall, upon request and in accordance with its statutory obligation, disclose the investigatory records except as to the death scene records noted above or those subject to any other statutory exemption or redaction rule. Hippler said that these witnesses, most of them are known, and so therefore the witness list was unredacted. We got the witness list, right? I used that as an exhibit when I wrote them, and I provided that to them. I used all their own words against them. I said, you have to give me this shit this way. These are the orders, man. You're going against a court order. I want you held in motherfucking contempt. So let's start it. You want to cite them? Motion. I want to file a motion for contempt. They're defying a court order. They just flat out said that they were not going to send me the bedrooms of Bethany and Dylan. Why? What the fuck? Then I want the spare bedroom. You're not going to get the spare bedroom. Why? How about this? Stop calling it a spare bedroom. I want the office. I want a room where nobody has any privacy. It's a catch-all room. It's a junk drawer room. Can you believe? No. I said, why? Whose privacy? Whose privacy? I'm dead. I'm like a little kid who's 7 and they're asking their mom, like, why can't I do this? Well, because I said so. That's basically what the answer is. Well, because I said so. That may fly with your 7-year-old, but it is not going to fly here. Unreal. You guys understand, though, that they have no leg to stand on with it. How in the world are you saying that we can't have these rooms that are in here that are saying that we can? Release of certain images, videos, and audio have caused plaintiffs to suffer irreparable injury, and there is a reasonable expectation that continued release will cause further irreparable injuries such that a permanent injunction is warranted. You guys, nobody has been injured because of that spare bedroom. As a final remedy, plaintiff's complaint seeks to permanently restrain the city from releasing the investigatory records described above. To do so, plaintiffs must show threatened or actual irreparable harm, and that there is a reasonable expectation that the wrong will be repeated. Who has done what? From the pleadings, the city does not dispute plaintiffs' claim that they have suffered irreparable injury due to the initial disclosures, even in their redacted form. Do you guys understand? How would the city ever make that argument? That's what we're going to be fighting against. I can't help it that idiot that was arguing is a moron. Unbelievable. Who would ever say that? So you're just opening yourself up for a lawsuit? Do you guys know? I mean, you can be sued for emotional distress. So is there some like off the record deal here? We're going to go ahead and agree to this, but you have to agree not to sue us. And that way we can make this a permanent order. Are you cool with that? Think about this. From the pleadings, the city does not dispute that the plaintiffs claim that they have suffered irreparable injury due to the initial disclosures, even in their redacted form. That's like what you need to be. That's like the city in a civil lawsuit for $10 million. You think that they would ever say yes to that? No, they wouldn't. They're admitting an element to the crime of, or for in the civil, not a crime, but in the civil, it's a civil tort claim. Yes, but it's the same thing, Mary. What do you think this is? This isn't a criminal case here. They're over here admitting that what they did harmed them. You know how much money that would be awarded in a civil case for that admission? Fucking millions. Absolutely millions of dollars. From the pleadings, the city does not dispute plaintiffs' claim that they have suffered irreparable injury due to the initial disclosures, even in their redacted form. The guy that oral argued for the city just literally, how are you going to now if these parents wanted to sue you guys? I think that I can't believe when is the Gonsalves is going to sue Moscow. Why are they going to sue the city? They just admitted. Here it is. The guy that represented the city just admitted. Think about how wild this is. Just so that they couldn't release things, they went ahead and just put this on the record. This whole thing, this whole filing, this is a civil matter. So the city's like, yep, you guys, come on, sue us. We just totally, yeah. But there must have been an off-record agreement, huh? Sure. Instead, the city contends, and quote, it has made the only decision available to it under Idaho law by blurring the bodies and requests the court find the initial redacted versions of the investigatory records be published, be publicly disclosed. So the city contends it has made the only decision available to it under law. Do you understand? This is what I use to get our stuff. This is the only decision available to under law was to blur the images because I have to give you these investigatory records, right? By blurring the bodies and request the court find the initial redacted versions of the investigatory records be publicly disclosed. Irreparable injury is any injury that is impossible. So the city is saying that the blurring, and that's how that should be. And you want to know why they're advocating for that right there? Because then they're really royally fucked. If they're saying that they shouldn't have been disclosed. Okay. So they're only, there's a bunch of things that you can claim in civil court to say why you're going to sue somebody. And one thing is emotional. You can sue for emotional distress. This is insane. But then right here, the city's like, instead, the city's contends that it, in quotes, it has made the only decision available to it under Idaho law. She puts it in quotes. This is what this guy oral argued to. Hey, our only option is to redact these and blur these like this, man. So then what I mean here, to make it in layman's terms, is everything that they're feeding me after the fact here and now and hiding behind privacy, you know damn well you can't. Because as your lawyer argued, the city contends it has made the only decision available to it under Idaho law by blurring the bodies and request the court find the initial redacted versions of the investigatory records be publicly disclosed. Give me my shit. They just want us to go through this, and it's like, I'm going to seek that Moscow Police Department pays, or not, the city is going to pay every single legal expense for this. I want attorney fees. Irreparable injury is any injury that is impossible to remedy or repair. Plaintiffs have set forth undisputed evidence. What evidence was put before the court? Undisputed evidence. You guys, we were all at that hearing. What evidence was put before the court? Plaintiffs have set forth undisputed evidence that they have suffered and will continue to suffer irreparable injury, including extreme emotional distress, because of the city's release of certain records. Steve, if you don't take this and go sue, I mean, Bethany, Dylan, you guys want to do these GoFundMes? Here's your lawsuit. Go make millions. It's right here. You will have millions of dollars from the city. I'm going to sue the city because they put out those images. I was absolutely horrified. I'm not coming back from that. I didn't ever request that I'm going to sue Channel 8 because they put it out recklessly. Then Channel 8's going to be like, no, we have every right to put those out. That's what I got in my FOIA request. Now let's get everybody involved in this. Well, the city and what they chose to do, I was affected. All that fucking blood, you sick fucks, to put that out there. I'm drinking my tea in the morning, and what do I see come across the news? Blood everywhere. It was like the Nicole Simpson case all over again for me. Ridiculous. but I can't get a goddamn interview with Leslie Lehman and some assistant manager from Floyd's Cannibals cannabis shop. Okay? Unbelievable. More specifically, the injury sustained has physically manifested itself through sleep disturbance, shaking, and sobbing. I haven't been able to sleep. I can't even sleep thinking now that someone's going to literally come through my room now and stab me to death in my sleep, because basically this case has shown that that's when we're at our most vulnerable and because we can't defend ourselves. So I'm going to have to get armed guards at my house. More specifically, the injury sustained has physically manifested itself through, I just said that, sleep disturbance, shaking, sobbing. While it is likely plaintiffs have suffered these same or similar injuries prior to the city's disclosure due to the trauma they've endured from underlying circumstances over the last years, the city has not disputed that its initial disclosure of video, audio, and photographs in their redacted form caused plaintiffs the irreparable injury claimed. As such, plaintiffs are entitled to relief. They didn't dispute it. And that's the problem. You have to read. Really see what the hell's going on around here. And so this jackass, can you imagine the city just opened themselves up to a huge fucking millions upon millions of dollar lawsuit because this asshole that got up there and oral argued for the city? Well, so I cannot believe that last sentence there. This idiot. Why hasn't the city appealed this? More specifically, unbelievable. While it is likely the plaintiffs have suffered these same or similar injuries prior to the city's disclosure due to the trauma they've endured from underlying circumstances over the last several years, the city has not disputed that its initial disclosure of video, audio, and photographs in their redacted form caused plaintiffs the irreparable injury claimed. That's why this was granted. Well, I'm going to tell you what else is about to get granted. I've suffered from that fucking disclosure. And I haven't been able to sleep. A lot of things. I can't eat certain things anymore. Anything with red in it, I can't even eat it. So I cannot believe that the state or the city was so reckless to give channel whatever, 13, 23, 8, I don't care, whatever channel it was, and put out those pictures. I am completely, like, I've been wondering and thinking, why can't I shake? And it was like, you know what? Ever since freaking August of 2025, I just have not been the same. We'll see on the next one. Over and out.